Hello and good morning, everyone, especially to our gorgeous, kind, and approachable advisor, and at the same time, our general biology teacher, Mrs. Aurelia Guhitia. Ma'am, good morning. This is Group 8 and allow us to introduce ourselves. I am Jesrix Bayawa.
I'm Jelva Jade Abilidas.
I'm Nathaniel Montañez.
I am Peter Alcantara.
And we will going to discuss aerobic
Aerobic respiration.
respiration.
In this presentation, we will talk about the aerobic respiration and its stages. But before that, here are the three objectives or goals that we have to achieve at the end of this lesson.
First is to define aerobic respiration.
Second is to give the overall chemical reaction for aerobic respiration.
Third and last one is to name the four stages of aerobic respiration.
Are you all guys ready? Well then, if yes, let us start the discussion. What is aerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration is a biological process of producing cellular energy in the presence of oxygen. It is the aerobic catabolism of nutrients to carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Food glucose is converted into energy in the presence of oxygen. In contrast, anaerobic respiration does not use oxygen. Respiration is used by all cells to turn fuel into energy that can be used to power cellular processes. The product of respiration is a molecule called adenosine triphosphate or ATP, which uses the energy stored in its phosphate bonds to power chemical reactions. It is often referred to as the currency of the cell. Aerobic respiration takes place in all multicellular organisms, including animals, plants, humans, and other living organisms. In this process, energy is released by splitting the glucose molecules with the help of oxygen gas and involves an electron transport system in which molecular oxygen is the final electron acceptor. This type of respiration is much more efficient and produces ATP much more quickly than anaerobic respiration. This is because oxygen is an excellent electron acceptor for the chemical reactions involved in generating ATP. Most eukaryotes and prokaryotes use aerobic respiration to obtain energy from glucose. Again, always remember that the key phrase of aerobic respiration is uses oxygen, while the key phrase of anaerobic respiration is does not uses oxygen. This is for us to understand that aerobic respiration is different from anaerobic respiration.
To briefly state, aerobic respiration releases energy in cells by breaking down food substances whilst in the presence of oxygen, and it is represented by this equation as you've seen in our presentation. Glucose is broken down by oxygen to release the byproducts of carbon dioxide and water. Energy is released, which is then used to make a special energy molecule called ATP. ATP is how energy is stored for later use by the body, and that is the overall chemical reaction for aerobic respiration.
There are four stages that are involved in aerobic respiration. These four stages are glycolysis, transition reaction, the citric acid or Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis. In the first stage, we have glycolysis. Glycolysis is the first stage of cellular respiration's key metabolic route for generating ATP. The 6-carbon ring of glucose is broken into two 3-carbon sugars of pyruvate through a series of enzymatic reactions in two different steps. ATP and NADH are produced in the second phase of glycolysis, which completes the conversion to pyruvate and provides energy to the cell. Glycolysis produces a net gain of two pyruvate molecules, two ATP molecules, and two NADH molecules for the cell to utilize for energy in the whole process. The glycotic pathway is linked to the Krebs cycle after glucose is converted to pyruvate, where additional ATP is created for the cell's energy needs. Glycolysis occurs in both aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. The next stage is the transition reaction. Transition reaction is also called link reaction or pyruvate decarboxylation. This stage links glycolysis to the citric acid or Krebs cycle. In the transition reaction, it converts two molecules of 3-carbon pyruvate from glycolysis and other pathways into two-molecule acetyl coenzyme A or acetyl-CoA and two molecules of carbon dioxide through a process known as oxidative decarboxylation. Each pyruvate's carboxyl group is eliminated as carbon dioxide first, and the remaining acetyl group combines with coenzyme A to form acetyl coenzyme A or acetyl-CoA. As the two pyruvates undergo oxidative decarboxylation, two molecules of NAD plus are now reduced to 2 NADH plus 2H plus. The 2 NADH plus 2H plus carry protons and electrons to the electron transport chain to generate additional ATP by oxidative phosphorylation. The two molecules of acetyl-CoA then enter the citric acid cycle. The generated 2 NADH molecules carry electrons to the electron transport system where they are used to further oxidative phosphorylate ATPs. The overall reaction for the transition reaction is two molecules of pyruvate plus two molecules of NAD plus and plus two molecules of coenzyme A yields two molecules of acetyl-CoA plus two molecules of NADH plus two molecules of H plus and plus two molecules of carbon dioxide. In prokaryotic cells, the transition step occurs in the cytoplasm. In eukaryotic cells, the pyruvates must first enter the mitochondria because the transition reaction and the citric acid cycle takes place in the matrix of the mitochondria.
Krebs, also known as citric acid cycle, is the main source of energy for cells and an important part of aerobic respiration. The cycle harnesses the available chemical energy of acetyl coenzyme A into reducing power of NADH. Krebs cycle is considered an aerobic pathway for energy production. Two turns are completed during Krebs cycle because glycolysis produces two pyruvic acid molecules when it splits glucose. Oxidative phosphorylation is the final stage of aerobic cellular respiration. There are two substages of oxidative phosphorylation: the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis. In these stages, energy from NADH and FADH2, which result from the previous stages of cellular respiration, is used to create ATP. Electron transport chain is the final component of aerobic respiration and is the only part of glucose metabolism that uses atmospheric oxygen. Chemiosmosis is the movement of ions across a selective permeable membrane down their electrochemical gradient. During chemiosmosis, the free energy from the series of reactions that make up the electron transport chain is used to pump hydrogen ions across the membrane, establishing an electrochemical gradient. 2 ATP are produced in glycolysis and in Krebs cycle, and 32 to 34 ATP is produced in electron transport chain and chemiosmosis.
So that was all about aerobic respiration. Again, this is Group 8, and we hope you have learned a lot. Thank you for watching and listening.